Welcome to episode 1 of the mid-season MDF team reviews. We are looking at our current undefeated 14-0 league leading team in HandEggSportsBall. So, 14-0, strong start. How do we get here? All league record 74 and 17, so this is the record if matched up against every team every week. Gives us an implied record of about 11.4 to 2.6. So 11 and 3, 12 and 2, somewhere in that range. Obviously 14-0 is a little better than that, so there's been a little bit of luck involved, but I mean, good squad no matter what. Points for 890. This is the second best mark in the league. Points against 672, and this is kind of where the luck component comes in. That's third lowest in the league. So even on weeks where maybe the team was not quite as good as others, um, we're not facing stiff competition thus far, at least in terms of points scored. Max PF 972 with realized points of 92%. So this is the most efficient squad in terms of choosing its starters and getting the most out of it. So least points left on the bench. That's going to be a big part of how we get to the 14-0. Despite the fact the team itself is not necessarily been the highest scoring team. Well, it clearly has not been when you get to episode 2, but it's this has been one of the better squads. We've made the right decisions in terms of who to start, and it's paid off well in a 14-0 record. Strength of schedule thus far has been 10th or 5th easiest schedule, even accounting for the games against Handegg themselves, where there's opponents have been 0-7, obviously at 14-0. We still have a losing record. Remaining schedule is right middle of the pack. Winning record of teams that are yet to play Hand Egg, sixth hardest schedule for the rest of the season. Almost certainly headed to the playoffs. I mean, 14 wins already. We're 3 wins away from essentially guaranteeing the playoffs based on the history of the league with 7 weeks to go. It's not going to take much. At this point, it's positioning this team to be productive in the playoffs. The biggest thing that I'd like to say with this team is this is how you rebuild. In the last year, 2022, this team was 3-25. We've already got 14 wins this year, 11 wins higher than last year. Second in points for, 12th in points against. Not like that's really a choice, but even without that, it should be 11 and 3, 12 and 2. The draft yield this past year was great. I mean, not every pick's going to be a hit, but it brought in a lot of talent. 2023 draft landed this team Bijan Robinson, Bryce Young, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, Zach Charbonnet, Jaden Reed, and at the 409, Puka Nakua. Poaching at the top of the poach gave us Nick Chubb. So that's a ton of talent to be infused into a roster. It's not a surprise, and based on the fact that they were stuck on the taxi squad, it seems Handegg expected this as well. QJ, Charbonnet, Jaden Reed, not big contributors this year, all tucked on taxi. Those are really future investments. Bijan, though he's not getting the rush share everyone would have hoped, Tyler Algier is taking more than his fair share in most people's eyes. Arthur Smith will Arthur Smith and do what he wants to do. But Bijan is still, just through the passing game, offered a ton of value. Bryce Young hasn't been spectacular, but starting quarterbacks are valuable. Jordan Addison is only trending higher each week and has scored enough touchdowns to be a strong contributor. And then Puka Nakua has been absolute revelation. Uh, I mean, NFL fantasy, it doesn't matter. He's found money and just offering obscene return on investment. This is one of the 3 teams that is actually 7-0 against the median. Consistently good week to week. May not be the top scorer every week, but top half of the league, absolutely. It is one of the squads that before the season was projected to have a decent chance at the playoffs. Kind of the top of the middle class. We've clearly seen better than that. Before the season projection was 16-12 with a 63% chance to make the playoffs. That's been absolutely blown out of the water. I think Puka can be blamed in large part for that. I mean, obviously not individually, he's not the only reason, but fines like that are just, they make a big difference. They really swing the pendulum. So Handegg's really one of our two real big overachievers thus far. Looking at top dynasty assets, Lamar Jackson, Bijan Robinson, Puka Nacua, Bryce Young, Kyle Pitts. It is a young core for this squad. So we're not just relying on old production. It almost everyone who is a major contributor is also a younger asset. This bodes well for this squad being competitive for years to come, assuming we don't see a Empire pot win in the near future. Still holds first round pick for 2024. All of the other picks are out the door, but that is a valuable piece that really can, as we get closer to the deadline here, really can be dangled out there to add even another piece to the squad. Contributions this year thus far, I'm going to look at WARP, wins over replacement player, just a measure of how well these players perform or have contributed relative to other players at their position. Lamar Jackson has been, well, he's in the league breaker level. He's been great. He's offered the fourth highest WARP in the league thus far. Keenan Allen, Puka Nacua, both in that elite level, offering numbers that are in the top 25, if not quite a bit higher, to be honest. Yeah, both are top 18 in terms of WARP. Bijan Robinson, Jordan Addison, Christian Kirk, Bryce Young, Joe Mixon, all offering decent amounts. Nick Chubb was a good contributor prior to this significant injury, unfortunately. Was what you hope for out of the top of a poach draft. Just unfortunate that he went down. Gardner Minshew, a bit of a surprise addition to the list. It is worth noting that the top 10 players on this team, their combined WARP, is actually only the fifth best mark in the league. This isn't a team necessarily built on 2, 3, 4 players at the top really carrying the squad relative to some of the other top contenders, but it is a team with depth. A lot of medium level contributors, which really makes that realized point sufficiency metric of 92% that much more impressive, because this team actually has decisions on a week-to-week basis to make in terms of who to start. It's a situation where you've got 11, 12 guys worth starting every week, and you got to whittle that down to 8, and making those right decisions can be the difference between winning one week and not. So it's been impressive the way that that's gone thus far. The levers that Handegg has pulled to get to this point, definitely going in the right direction. It's a situation now where really going down the stretch, you're just hoping for health. You're hoping for continuity of performance. Maybe have Joe Mixon bounce back, Bryce Young kind of grow into his role, and have this team rounded in shape for the playoffs. Because right at this point, playoffs are coming. It would be an absolute shock if the playoffs weren't a part of Handegg's future. And I mean, this is one of the league's hopes to knock Devil off his pedestal and keep the league going for another season. Those of us with picks or younger players kind of looking towards next year, we don't get that next year unless someone other than Devil wins. So I think come playoff time, Handegg's going to have a number of teams rooting behind him as he makes an effort towards title. And I mean, should we see a win, then he gets to be the one that everyone roots against. But this young core, should the league go on for a number of years, is gonna be competitive, is gonna be one of the better cores for years to come.